Hey there, welcome back to another video. This vlog is a bit different from the usual. It's our F1 experience at the 2024 Budapest Grand Prix. I've been loving and following F1 for years now, and it's always been my dream to attend a full 3-day weekend. So come along as I experience an F1 Grand Prix for the first time. And stay tuned until the end to see how much we spent. On Friday, we made our way to the Hungaroring track. Together, you can either drive, take a taxi, or ride the train. Initially, we considered taking taxis, as last year they had a fixed price of €40 per trip, which we were fine with. However, there was no fixed price this year, and we heard of taxi asking for over €120, which is insane. So instead, we took the train at Orsverester. I apologize for my poor Hungarian pronunciation. And we got off at Budapest, where shuttle buses were waiting for us. We purchased a 72-hour transport card for €13, which allowed us unlimited access to the metro and train. We arrived at the track through gate 3, where there was parking and some merchandise stands outside. Inside the track there were also quite a few merchandise shops, but everything was overpriced compared to what you can find online. That day we arrived right at 1 p.m. to catch the first F1 practice. It took us about 1 hour and 30 minutes door to door to get to the track, which was consistent throughout the weekend. It was amazing to finally experience the cars passing by live. Although it's not as loud as it used to be, you can still definitely hear the roar of the cars. After FP1, we decided to explore the nearby fan zone. They had 4 fan zones across the track, all accessible even to general admission holders like us. Before the trip, I was worried that general admission would be really tough, and it was in some ways, especially when it came to finding a seat. But overall, it was much better than expected. Still, for the next race, I would like to experience what it's like in the grandstands. We took advantage of Friday and the fact that it wasn't too busy to explore the track. We walked a lot that day, probably the most out of the whole weekend, tried to identify the best spots to watch the race. We also did most of the fan zone activities on Friday since they had a lot and everything was free. The most memorable for me was the pit stop challenge, where we had to change a tire as quickly as possible, and it's much harder than it seems. Next came the F3 and F2 qualifying sessions. If you're planning to attend the race, I highly recommend getting the full 3-day weekend tickets. There are so many events happening all the time, so we never had to wait long between the cars running. We also discovered then a Hungarian delicacy, the chimney, which we ended up loving and had multiple times during that weekend. The last event of the day was FP2. This time we decided to go all the way to turn 14. Our research beforehand indicated that it was one of the best places to watch the race. And indeed, if you're close to the barrier, you can see pretty well, and you're near giant screens. However, it was really super packed on Friday and I couldn't see much. We still explored the nearby area, which had the biggest fan zone. There they have a stage where they do the driver presentations on Friday and Saturdays. After FP2, most people rushed to the exit, but we stayed behind to explore more Fanzone activities before they closed. To leave the track, we decided to walk to a nearby station since the line for the bus was already quite long. We walked to Slatsliget, which is a straightforward 20-minute walk from the track. The bus goes to a different station further ahead of Slatsliget, so I was worrying that the train would be full, but it turned out that they were taking a different route, so the train was empty and we were even able to sit. We spent the end of Friday exploring our neighborhood around Calvintir, but it didn't last long as we were all very tired. On Saturday, we headed to the track earlier than on Friday, but it was already much busier, more than double the crowd. We had to squeeze into the train. We considered walking to the track from Budapest, thinking that it would be a nightmare to get the shuttle, but it was very well organized, and even though we couldn't get on the first 4 buses, another fleet of buses arrived within 2 minutes. That day the sky was grey, and the temperature was 5 degrees lower than the day before, which was definitely a relief. It was still 30 degrees though, but being in general admission, we were much more exposed to the weather, rain or shine. Since we walked the track the day before, we went straight to turn 5. I really like this spot because we could see turn 4, 5 and 6, and we were close to a fan zone, which was useful for bathroom breaks, getting water or grabbing food. And because we were close to the grandstands, there were also a big screen behind us that we could hear, so we knew what was happening. We stayed there all day, just going back and forth between that spot and the fan zone. We got another chimney cake and some drinks. right after the end of the F2 sprint race and before the F1 qualifying, the rain decided to join, but it was very light, so not really a problem for us. However, it did cause issues for the drivers, particularly Perez, who we saw crash live at turn 4. The only downside to the spot we were at on Saturday was that everything was fine during the F3 and F2 sprint races, but as soon as F1 qualifying started, everyone stood up, making it much more difficult to see. But if you can grab a spot close to the barrier, then you have a great view. For the way back to the train station, we decided to walk again as it was so much easier. For food, we decided to prep and pack on sandwiches every day. This definitely saved us money, as everything was a bit overpriced, but it also saved us time as the line for the food stands grew longer as the days went on. It's race day and we woke up pretty early at 6 a.m. if I recall and went straight to the track. But as you can see, you weren't the only ones who got up early. Each day we left the flat earlier, but the transport and the track were busier. We arrived just after 8 a.m. and for the first time we had to queue to enter the track. We really noticed a big difference in the number of people attending. We ran, literally, straight to our viewpoint from the day before. However, as you can see in the clips, a lot of good spots were already taken. We decided to move down a corner, which would have been my perfect spot. You don't see as much of the track, but because it's on the hill, it's less likely that people in front of you will block your view. And it was also one of the few areas shaded by trees. However, we moved to a different turn right in front of the gate 3. From there, we had a pretty good view of the track and we could even see the screen in the background. However, as we were so close to the main gate, people kept coming in and it was very busy in the end. The schedule is pretty packed on Sunday as all the races are taking place. They were also shooting the F1 movie at the Budapest Grand Prix, so we saw the cars running around the track. Then it was time for the F2 race and we witnessed the yellow flags and Antonelli's second win. After that, it was time for the Porsche Supercup. We hadn't seen any of the previous events for that category over the weekend, but I really enjoyed the race, particularly when they were sliding on the track. Then came the driver's parade. That was the first time we actually saw the drivers, since we didn't attend any of the fan events. Behind them, the marshals were also parading, and they put on quite a show. Finally, it was time for the main event of the weekend, the F1 race. At the beginning, we could easily identify the order of the drivers. You can tell who is driving by looking at the top of the car. One driver from each team has a yellow sticker, while the other doesn't. But after a few laps and some drivers being lapped, it was very difficult to follow the race. Our original plan was to watch the race on our phones, but we didn't have much reception that day. I think it was just probably too busy. We followed along via the F1 live tracker, which is very useful and provides a lot of information such as radio messages. But we had to constantly check our phones. Our visibility was also limited because of course everyone was standing up to see the race. Overall, it was a great experience, and I'm glad I was there to witness Piastri's first win. As soon as the race finished, we decided to leave the track. Some people were already leaving before the end. We were close to the gate and very far from the track entrance, so it didn't really make sense to invade the track and watch the podium, though I'm sure it's a great experience. We walked again to the same station, but this time we had to pay extra for a ticket, and the train was much busier. It was already pretty full when it arrived, as some people had walked to the station ahead of us. And that's how we ended our first F1 experience. Price-wise, you can see the breakdown on the screen. We saw in around 850 each. I hope you enjoyed coming along on this Budapest Grand Prix journey, and I'll see you in the next video.